Tell me about how this project started for you.
I got the script through the door. It said Pompeii. I grew up with the story of Pompeii and the eruption of Vesuvius, and I thought it was fascinating that someone was making a movie out of it. And so I met the director, and he was incredibly enthusiastic about the project. And I loved the story. I loved the love story running through it, and I wanted to do a volcano movie. So yeah, it was that simple.
You're no stranger to sort of the fictionalized version of the time period, but what is it like to step into a real-world history scene?
It was fascinating. I love doing history pieces or fantasy pieces and being taken out of our world and into a completely different one. I'd never done anything Roman before. It was quite exciting to play gladiator, and the fight scenes were incredible on paper, and I wanted to get involved in that. It was a great chance to do a sort of big body transformation. I'm a bit of a history buff, so to explore this event in film was interesting to me.
So you're pretty much a badass in this. Can you tell me a little about building this character?
It was just great. I mean, it's Julian Fellows who wrote Downton Abbey, crafted such an iconic role here. Atticus, who is an enslaved African who rises because of his physical prowess and ability to become the champion gladiator of Pompeii. I mean, Pompeii was the Vegas of today, and Atticus was the Mike Tyson, the man to beat, and he has one fight left to win his freedom. There was extensive training that went into preparing me for the role. We did Gladiator boot camp 4 weeks prior to the shooting of the movie, which consisted of 2 hours of fight training with swords and weaponry, and an hour of weightlifting, then another hour of cardio, and this strict gladiator diet just to give you the Adonis kind of shape and figure. But it was all worth it because Paul W.S. Anderson, he has said to me he just didn't want actors that looked like gladiators or the part, but he wanted them to actually perform these intricate fight sequences. And, and there's some wonderful strands of emotion between these characters, my character and Kit Harington's character Milo, when they're imprisoned together and forced to live with each other, but know that they have to kill each other. It's just great drama.
Start off by telling me how this project began for you.
It was strangely easy. I actually, I read the script, and then I think I met Paul the next day, and then I got a call saying that they were offering me the part the next day, and I swear to God, it is not usually that easy, but it was just it all just happened. It was very lucky.
How much is Aurelia like somebody that actually lived in Pompeii? Did you do much research?
Yeah, I did. I looked into what women were, women's sort of roles in society at that time, and was surprised to find out that they were actually kind of more autonomous than you would expect. I learned that that women, wouldn't always take their husband's surname, and they would keep their father's surname. They were allowed to represent themselves in court, and obviously they were still not considered completely equal citizens, but it was interesting to see sort of the freedom that they had, even compared to sort of a couple hundred years later when they didn't really have the same kind of freedom. So yeah, I think Cassia was I'd like to think that she was similar to a person of that time. I don't exactly know, but we had historians working on the film and making sure that it was all as accurate as possible.
So stylistically, this is a bit of a change of pace for you. It feels sort of more like an old studio sword and sandal film.
Definitely, it starts like that and then turns into a very big disaster movie at the end.
But it almost feels like sort of Colossus of Rhodes almost.
Well, I grew up watching sword and sandal movies, so obviously I was like really kind of in love with them, and I really wanted, you come see a movie called Pompeii, there's going to be a volcano in it. But ideally, I wanted the audience to almost forget about that and kind of like deliver a story that was big and epic and involving, to the point where you get so into kind of Kit's struggle for freedom that you kind of forget that there's a volcano in the background. So when it does explode, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, there's a volcano in this film as well.
It's very different though than something like Three Musketeers, which had a very modern edge to it. This feels very classic.
I wanted to make a straight historical epic. And, so there's no stylistic flourishes. We kept all the fighting very real. There's no wire work. There's a lot of visual effects, but they're not stylized in any way. They're all kind of based on reality. The physics of the volcano and the tidal wave and the earthquake were all very accurately researched. I wanted to keep it really true to what happened because I find what happened fascinating. I think most people don't know. If they think about Pompeii, they think maybe volcano, if they know anything. What people don't realize is that actually it was a triple threat. In a 24-hour period, Pompeii got hit by a huge earthquake, the volcano exploded, and also there was a massive tidal wave that hit them. So, it was a bad 24 hours.
It also has the charm of sort of being two movies. It begins as a gladiator movie and then becomes a disaster movie. Does it feel like you're making two separate movies?
It did feel a bit like that at times. And the trick is to trick the audience into forgetting that the volcano is going to go off. And that's, everyone knows it is. It's on the poster. It's called Pompeii. We all know about Pompeii. But if we can try and lead them down a merry path of thinking it's one film and then this whole other section of the film comes in, it is a bit like there's two different films going on. And it did feel a bit like that when we were filming it.
It also feels like, while it's sort of flawless on the screen, one of them is definitely a more practical filming than the eruption, which is much more effects heavy.
Yeah, it was effects heavy. It was also very, it was special effects heavy. It was also effects heavy in that we were breathing in a lot of this ash, which is made out of some kind of fiber. I don't know. It was a very. I think I know which was the more pleasurable side of the film to make, because the effects, once the volcano goes off, we were being pelted with rocks, and it wasn't all CGI is the point I'm trying to make.
Start off by telling me, how do you become volcano experts?
Well, I'm an archaeologist, so I'll let her answer that question.
Yes. I became a volcano expert actually in a roundabout way. My first degree is in astronomy, but I took a class in the geology of the planets when I was studying astronomy. And one day, this young man came to give the class, and he said, well, Mount Etna erupted, so the professor had to go, because the professor was a volcanologist. And I said, that's really cool, that's what I want to do.
Do you work specifically with Pompeii, or?
I have worked with material from Pompeii. My current excavations are in northern Israel, but I'm a Roman archaeologist, so any Roman archaeologist worth the title knows Pompeii.
As far as coming to seeing the things you study on the big screen, what in both of your fields is the biggest misconception that movies normally have?
Well, there is a misconception about the eruption that this movie didn't have. And that is that many people think that the volcano just went like bang suddenly and everybody was killed. And the movie did a really good job of showing that there was a sequence of events. There were earthquakes, there was an explosion when they are in the arena, but that was not the explosion that caused the pyroclastic flows to come down. So they depicted very well that there was a sequence of events. And in fact, we know that a number of people got out of the city.
You're also no stranger to special effects films. Is it a skill that grows? Can you go back to what you've done before and build on it?
Yeah, I do feel like, something with something like Lemony Snicket that I did 11 years ago or something. It was very bizarre to me then. We had moments of having to talk to a tennis ball, and it was like I can't, like my brain couldn't really process that. And then I think you get used to it, but it was kind of simple on this film because all of the sets were built and we had these sort of beautiful, intricate sets, and it was really just the backdrop and the volcano that was CGI, and we had a lot of sort of tangible stuff to work with, like there was ash and smoke and fire and everything there, so that we didn't have to pretend too much, I suppose.
Does that make it doubly exciting for you to see the final product?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, the sets look incredible and the sort of in-camera special effects look incredible. But then, to see the CGI volcano is like, oh, this is the movie we made. Like, you kind of don't, you can't even possibly imagine what it's like when you're in there, and then you see it and it's kind of amazing.